Welcome to the Badlands, a place I don't think I or anyone I'm going to talk to expected to be. My name is Jared, and for the last 9 months, I've been an out-of-work ad agency senior suit. My last role was the Regional Client Service Director at Grey Singapore, delivering work around Southeast Asia and India. I returned to London last year, fully imagining I'd been in another agency fairly quickly, as had been the case over the last 2 decades, but not so much this time. So I found myself wandering the Badlands. In these 9 months, I've noticed a few odd things in our industry, and I've also noticed a surprising amount of ex-colleagues and clients all in a similar position to me. So I thought it might be helpful and maybe interesting to talk to some of these people, to see how they're doing, discover their experiences, understand what they're looking for, and maybe shine a light on them and their talents, but most importantly, check in with them, as it's a lonely experience being in the Badlands. Please welcome Rikke Wichmann-Brunn. Rikke was most recently CEO of MRM and has an amazing client service career at many of the biggest and best agencies in town, but now finds herself in the Badlands, illustrating that it can happen to all levels in the industry at the moment. Today we'll discuss her situation, how she's coping, and what she hopes for the future. So please welcome Rikke. Rikke, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much, Jared, and thank you for giving me the honour of joining you in this conversations in your very, I must say, inspiring initiative around Badlands at the moment, because it feels quite bad, doesn't it? But I am actually very well. Today I am well. Let's see what let's see what the next day brings. But today I'm well, and I've been excited about this.
I was talking to someone yesterday, and there's like a daily cadence, and there's a weekly cadence, and some days you do feel great, and you have some positivity, and then some days it can be tough. It comes out nowhere, but I'm having a good day today as well. I think the nice sunny weather's helped.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm glad you're feeling well and feeling good about things. So Rick and I have been introduced by a mutual friend who we both worked with. But when I looked into your career, I was like, man, she's had an amazing career, and how come she's in the Badlands? So I think.
Well, I thought the same. No,
okay.
The same thinking exactly.
So I think for my millions of listeners, Rikke, wink,
of course,
I think it'd be great to give everyone listening a bit of a summary of your career and I guess culminating in kind of why you're in the Badlands and having to talk to me on a cheeky Tuesday. So just give everyone a bit of a flavour of what you've done.
No, of course. Well, it's long, obviously, because I've also sort of reached a that big 50 in my life. So I've got over 25 years under the belt now in this industry, and as you said, I've sort of touched most of the big agencies, both here and in Denmark, because I'm Danish, born and bred, and I've been in the UK in combination around 15 years. So I've operated in lots of different markets. I will consider myself as a really experienced, of course, the 25 years does give you something, experienced leader in terms of I've been very fortunate in working in, or have chosen to work in, very different kinds of agencies. So, both from a traditional advertising point of view to performance marketing point of view, social, in-housing, I've done, and then lately, my last gig, very much around a CRM and really opening up my knowledge around the tech world and platform world from a marketing perspective. So I'm a really rounded leader in terms of understanding most of the touch points in any form of communication objective needed. And that actually is a very big strength of mine, because it doesn't only apply to how I can solve, client challenges, but it really applies to how I can manage and lead different types of people. You can imagine that a Brazilian CCO is very different from an introvert coder. so that sort of level of leadership across many different personalities, I think, has been has just been a positive outcome of having such a broad resume at the moment. Yeah. So, but, and I'm a modern Danish, transparent as well. My leadership is very straightforward, which is also giving me lots of different opportunities in that regard.
So one would be right to assume that you would have been snapped up the second that your last thing ended, which is insane, which I'm sure we'll come on to. But yeah, look, I think for anyone who does look at Rikke's LinkedIn profile after this, when I post this out, it's incredible the place you've worked and the variety of things you've done. I think one of the things that I'm talking to people about throughout this is that kind of diversification. Is that even a word? Diversification? I think that's
Yeah,
the
I
word.
think it is. Well, we can make it work today.
Yeah,
It's
for
fine.
sure,
We
for
make
sure.
it work.
Of oneself, I think is key moving forwards. But then, strangely, might also fly in the face of some of the things that I think a lot of people are experiencing at the moment. That it feels like the job market is super specific, and you have to be perfectly suited. I don't know if a lot of people are taking risks on people at the moment, but I think with you, you've got such a variety of skills in different areas within the communication sector that you could easily slip into a very specific role at the moment, which I think is something that I think a lot of people I've talked to are really trying to focus on themselves.
Yeah.
Position themselves going forwards, because I don't think it's as easy as it used to be, as I've discussed many times with folks. So in terms of why you're in the Badlands, and like I say, share as much or as little as you want, how come you find yourself in this position? Is it through choice? Was it forced on you? Was it why is someone as good as you in this position?
So I had, it's a restructure, yeah. And out of to leading the way forward for the business I was in, someone else was chosen other than me, and so redundancy in a way. I'm going to add to that I do actually think that for the way that business needs to move forward, I don't think it's the wrong choice.
Right.
So there's no sort of, oh my God, I was made redundant, blah, blah, blah. It's looking at if I were the person above me that were to make that decision based on the two profiles, I would have probably done the same. Yeah. Right. And I think that's just a very, say something nice about myself, but I think it's a very mature reaction to it. I'm not at any point feeling, sort of.
You didn't kick over the desk on the way out type
thing. No, I was actually going, well, of course you do in the beginning, because it's never nice. No. And you get to when you you sort of, I'm 50 years old. I'd, after many years reached, that level in my career that I wanted to be and really push forward in. I think the whole industry, and especially, where I have had some really tough years. So being a CEO has been really tough. Right. And I think, so I wasn't sort of clapping my hands and going, thank God. But if I were to take a step back and say, what would I have done in that person's shoes? And empathy is one of my strong skills out there. What would I have done in that person's shoes that had to make that decision? I probably would have done the same. So, and I think, that's kind of helped me in thinking.
Yeah, I'm sure that helps kind of from a it's not me type thing. And I think it's an important part of this when other people I'm speaking to, and you kind of go through that self-doubt phase, and the longer you're in the Badlands, start questioning, well, how have I managed to get so far and now I just can't, so I think it's healthy for you to move into this period, not knowing that, sometimes the business calls for a specific thing, and it's nothing personal, the role.
No. I'm not saying I couldn't have done it. I'm just saying I think it was the right choice.
Of course. But I think we're all operating at the moment in a society that is kind of zero risk. There doesn't seem to be any.
No, it's very short term.
Yeah, there's a lot of short-sightedness, and there's a lot of hesitancy. And I was talking to a very well-known CMO who'll be appearing on the podcast next week. And the lack of, I guess, risk in even hiring someone who might check 9 of the 10 boxes, which used to be a way to bring in new thinking and a new way of doing things, just isn't there at the moment. And we understand that it's driven out of fear and a fear of having to report your numbers and not wanting to rock the boat, which is already in a terrible storm of the state of the nation economy and, cost of living dramas. And so it's all understandable, but there was going to become a point where we've almost created a situation, the royal we, as in everyone in our industry and other industries, that no change is going to come and nothing interesting is going to be happening, not being done, nothing's going to change. So therefore, well, is that just a race to the bottom then? Like, I'm kind of witnessing.
And so am I. And I think because I have, I've done 10 years of managing directing and then, and then CEOing, is that even a word? And I think, what you're talking about is exactly what you deal with. Yeah. And I think, in many instances, especially in our big sort of holding companies, it is not by choice. I think everyone do want to do what you're talking about. It's just simply driven by cost management at the moment, because not just because of the cost of living crisis in the UK, but actually because of the global environment that we're all operating in. Is fearful. It's fearful, right? And that is so. It's sort of. I kept saying to both the people I had to sort of make redundant over the years, and to myself, it's like we're all playing by the same playbook, right? And that means I can totally recognize this sort of. I think everyone knows that, yes, we'd like to bring those people in, and I know that the people I know out there who sits in the similar positions or CEOs think that the economy, everything doesn't allow for us to do that yet. But here's the thing, everything goes around in circles. And for everyone out there who's got to believe in that, it's like fashion. Yeah, it is like fashion. History does always repeat itself, and so will this. It will turn, because I think sometimes these situations also allows people in my situation, your situation, everyone in Badlands, is to try and really sort of then redefine what is I want to do, what is I need to do. So maybe the silver lining is all of this is we are going to be the ones driving what is needed, because we've seen, because we've seen change, and we have changed in this sort of in the positions that we're in now and in the time.
No, I think you're right, and it's again, my conversations with other people that I'll be recording with, there's a lot of that, and I think a couple of very senior people I've spoken, yourself included, I think using this time now to almost reset a little bit of what it is we do, and then the second you're back in somewhere, you can start to almost understanding the outside from looking out of the, you're looking
exactly.
Exactly. When you're in it, you don't see it because you've got your head down, and it's about reporting next quarter's numbers and forecasting Q3.
I mean, you're in it almost a fetus position when you're in it, right? You sort of now it's sort of like you can raise yourself up a bit, go like, oh exactly. No, I totally get it.
I think you're right. Everything's circular or pendulum. It will swing. I'm seeing a lot of chatter around the days of brand building seem to have gone, and the kind of short-termism around kind of immediate sales requirements are driving, just super direct responsive stuff at the behest and the kind of neglect of any sort of long-term brand building. And again, that'll over time, I'll go the other way, and then there'll become people complaining about there's just all brand nonsense out there. Nothing's telling me about.
Exactly.
I think that's you're right. It is cyclical. It just happens that when you're in the middle of the oil tanker turning, it's so slow, and it feels
exactly, and it's not comfortable. It's not comfortable.
So, I guess on that then, given your time, and it doesn't matter how long you're in the Badlands, I think that you could be in 1 week or 1 month or 6 months at the moment, and the situation that person then faces is quite similar in that. I think that there's clearly a lack of movement in the market, and I think that when there is any sort of movement and roles, the specificity around that, the type of person they're looking for to fill that role, is making it incredibly tricky for the vast majority of people. And like I say, the risk taking seems to be minimal at the moment. So in terms of your experiences, in terms of your looking around, I assume that as soon as you entered into the Badlands, you put out your calls to your recruiters and colleagues and friends. And so how have you found it this period? And do you have any tales of it going badly or brilliantly, and anything that we can help people think, oh Christ, it's not just me then, because I think there's a lot.
Yeah, I do. I mean, first and foremost, I mean, I've been in this Badlands for like 2 months now, and 3 of them I chose to go away. Not 3 of the weeks I chose to go away and do something totally different, which I can only recommend, because I went to India to volunteer in a program empowering women, and I actually did it not because I want to do something good with the time I have, but I did it because I felt exactly as you said. This the day I was told of my situation. I mean, the first thing you do is that you fear, yeah. So you panic, yeah, because you're driven by fear, And I think especially the more senior you get, yeah, because you are very aware that the more senior you are, the less chairs there are.
Yeah.
To sit on. So fear is obviously the first thing that I did, and then I did exactly what you said. I went through my very extensive black book of headhunters and recruiters and literally spammed them in the first few days. And I was very sort of I think that experience, let's talk a bit about that, because that experience is someone told me, and I have, I have nothing against recruiters and headhunters because they are in the same position as we are, right? The less jobs, the less work. So it's sort of the same. However, I will say, someone said to me, recruiters and headhunters are a bit like real estate sort of people, and it's right in a weird way. You are very interested. What I feel, and please, anyone who's a recruiter or a headhunter, don't take any offense, because I love you all dearly as well. It's like, you're very interesting when there's something useful. Of course you are. And when you can be of use because you are your profit for them, of course you are. And you're sort of then more sort of valuable to them. I will say, so I reached out very quickly, got lots of positive feedback, hang in there, and something will come up. And then we don't have anything right now, but we'll keep you in our books, blah, blah, blah. Then you get the few sort of, hey, I've got something interesting. There's no brief quite yet, but I'll get back to you. And then radio silence.
Yeah.
And what I would like to say to it's the silence. It's, I don't mind if someone then calls me and said, listen, mate, not you. Fine, I can check it off my books. But the knowing that right now, for example, I have heard of somewhere between 4 and 5 open roles out here that could be relevant for me. Yeah, I've heard, on a chat, on a call, hey, this might be relevant for, I'll get back to you. In my head, because I have, because I am a client servicing person, in my head, I'll get back to you means I'll get back to you. Yes. Yeah, whether that is good or bad, but I will get back to you. So also being patient and going, right, okay, fine, I'll let them, I don't want to be rude, and I don't want to feel needy, and I don't want to chase people down. That was my initial reaction, right? No, let's just give them time. But when, like, let's say 5, 7, and since I don't have an Outlook account at the moment, I work on Gmail, and Gmail kindly reminds you that this person has not responded to your email in 5 days. You actually know very accurately when you sent an email that you have had no response to. So then I got a bit like, okay, fine, I'm going to chase again, and you again hear nothing, and I think that's the most frustrating bit, because in what happens in my head, and I don't know if that sort of is happening in other people's heads, is that I'm going like, then when someone else calls, I'm like, yeah, but I also know there's this job out there. So you kind of go like, oh my God, have I got too many opportunities now? Yeah. So my thing is, if there is something, yes, call the person who you might think is relevant. If not, just keep them in the loop. Yeah, just give a quick sort of, hey, you know what? Haven't forgotten about you. The briefs just hasn't landed yet, right? I have had to chase up on rejections. Oh, sorry, no, you weren't right. Well, you could have fucking told me.
Yeah. The worst chaser is for. I don't care that I didn't get a good job. I care that you didn't tell me for ages. That's the bit that bothers me.
Yes.
Because I've hired people into teams, and when you meet someone that you want to get in, they know within 24 hours. It's done. Like, that person's brilliant. Let's get
Absolutely.
them in and the
Yeah.
HR team deal with it.
Yeah.
So I know that when these weeks have gone by, already I know that I'm not working there. That's fine. I'm okay with that. What I can't stand is the humanity has gone around the service of people that are at the end of these CVs and at the end of these LinkedIn posts. There are human beings that are trying to make their way through,
pay our bills, or figure out,
support
okay,
life.
when is it? Because we all have, of course, a period of time where you go, okay, I'm safe, yeah. But you keep planning for that, and you know that that safety net is going to disappear unless that something else, happens,
Of course.
and I think it's that silence. And I also want to say that the feedback would be really useful, not just, hey, no, you weren't right. Okay. I'd like to know, why. And sometimes you do get the why, which is absolutely perfect. I've not had that many rejections yet, but I do have too many things out there I haven't heard back from. And it's just frustrating. And now at the moment, I've accept it, I am very happy to say that I'm doing some freelance work, which is absolutely fantastic for more than just the money thing, and sort of getting, sort of an income, but also just to get my brain working. And it's sort of like, well, I'm doing this. Should I call them and tell them, hey, I'm not available for 2 weeks? Do you know what I mean? It's that sort of, I don't know. You're giving me nothing to work with.
I think historically that would have been the smart and polite thing to do. I think at the moment it genuinely wouldn't matter, because we're dealing in weeks and months as opposed to days.
Yeah, exactly.
So my advice to you, Ricky, in the real time, I'd be like, I wouldn't even say anything, because by the time the thing has moved on, it'd be fine. So I think it's important. I'll say it. I know a few recruiters, and I've been placed by fantastic recruiters who they're still trying to help me at the moment, and they give it to me straight, which is great. And there are fantastic people out there, and it must be a torrid time for those guys at the moment.
That's what and that's exactly what I was saying as well. We also know that the less job there is for them to play with, the less they can do. So it's like a vicious circle, and like, it's not. I am not by no means slacking off any of my very brilliant recruiter friends, and because
do that in private. That's fine.
Exactly, but it is literally going like, it's frustrating sitting at this end, because I used to sit on the other end. I used to be the one giving briefs to recruiters, So, and now I'm sitting at this end going, I'd just like to know.
I think, to summarize, any recruiter hearing this, I think most people just want information. They want the job, but they want information. So it takes, 15 seconds to text, hey, I haven't heard anything about that thing, but don't worry, I'm chasing it. That's all you need that day to feel good about your day. It really is.
Exactly.
I'm not getting that. I know people who are spiraling and they're just not hearing things. And I think one thing I had to calibrate was my sense of time, because, again, whenever I'd chosen to move around previously in my career, I was working at the time. So you'd start the conversation with your recruiter, and then a week or two they'd come back and go, hey, I'm speaking to these people, this brief's coming from these guys in 2-3 weeks. And 6 weeks could go by, but you're at work, so you wouldn't even notice the 6 weeks. But 6 weeks when you're in the Badlands it's like
it's a long time.
It's like 25 years. It feels
exactly.
Like, there's a like dog years type thing going. So,
well, it's another monthly bill. There's another, bulk of monthly bills going out from, it's from your savings, or from, that's going out, that's not being replaced.
So, and I think the hundreds of thousands of recruiters listening, please just get in touch with your people and just let them know. It doesn't matter what you're telling them; just tell them something. I think that's.
I'm sure there's an AI thing that can help them, which is like messaging, things like that. So maybe we should do that.
Actually, I will human. I need that. Sorry. Okay. So you haven't been long, but I guess, given, like you say, you've effectively been the top of the pyramid, as it were, in the organizational structures for the last couple of years. So, there are the slowness of the market is clearly affecting, the speed of which a new thing might come along. How are you handling it mentally? How are you kind of breaking your day and your week up. I know you went away for a few weeks, which I think is a brilliant thing to do. And I did say to my wife, if I didn't have a wife and child, I would be waiting this out on a beach in Thailand. You know,
I know.
it just would be easier and cheaper to do that. But yeah, how are you handling it mentally? Like how you coping is a big word, but do you have any tips or advice for people who find themselves in this situation?
Yeah, you know what? My biggest tip is acceptance. Like,
Yeah,
accept that you're in this situation, and accept that your routine will change. Accept that you will have. I had weeks early on where, you know, I had no motivation, and I did all the right things. I talked to people, got some counseling and all of that. And they were like, well, go for a walk, do some exercise, eat
yeah,
healthy. And it's like, I don't even want to do that. Yeah, you know, and and I know it sounds very sad, but I think I do actually think that it's okay to talk about this sort of, suddenly you've gone from 12-hour days with 12 meetings a day, and
yeah,
then the loose stuff, to waking up in the morning and going, what, what am I going to do? And you do your little sort of, right. I started out being very structured, going like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, but I also absolutely hated it, and then I sort of went, I'm just going to accept that some days I'm not going to do anything, because you can't keep thinking that you can maintain the same routine, the same going out and about. Just accept the bad days,
yeah,
and then know that um, I'm a very big fan of Gone with the Wind, and Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind had a mantra saying, tomorrow is another day. And I think that's been my operating
right.
model,
Yeah,
has been tomorrow is another day, but I will say, yes, if you can, I was fortunate to be able to go away and do something completely different that had a purpose, that allowed me to see everything from a different perspective. But most of all, it gave me a guilt-free break,
yeah,
because, yeah.
no, I was just going to say, like, it can be as big as, a few weeks away in another country, but I think even just, and I find it harder in winter, which is, cold, dark, short
Yeah,
days.
absolutely.
I think at the moment when I think just changing your scenery, because like you say, we've been so programmed and got so used to in on the train, into the office, going to a meeting, out for lunch. You have so much variety, and then the kind of numbness of not having to do much can be quite
It
hard for
can,
people
and especially,
to
like,
go from.
I've I've been like the busiest person for 25 years. I've
Yeah,
traveled, I've lived in different countries, I've raised an 18 year who's now 18 years old daughter.
wow.
I've been the most busy person where, my diary was a nightmare. And now I'm just laughing because I look at it and I go, oh my God, I've got 2 meetings. Shit. How am I going to cope? It's
My
very
wife
bizarre.
asked me to do something the other day, and I was like, "Oh, that's a lot." I was like,
I
"Oh,
said
how
it
would you
was.
advance that much? That's a lot of effort to get to do that."
I know, but I will say, it's all the usual stuff, isn't it? Try and keep yourself busy, but also talk to people,
Yeah.
talk to friends, talk to your network. WhatsApp people
Well,
that you used to work with, talk to you, exactly. You know, don't sort of lock yourself into a box of, oh my God, I don't have a job, I'm useless. There's so many of us out there now, to be honest. There's so many, so brilliantly talented, and the last few years has seen also very many senior people out there who's got loads of experience. Yeah. And
yeah,
I think let's talk to each other. And I know what I've seen, which I think is absolutely fantastic, is so many initiatives around groups of people in the same, in these situations. And your initiative is obviously brilliant as well, because it allows us to talk openly about the situation when that we're in, which is going to make it, it's a part of life. People do say that getting born, and redundancy and dying is the three things that are sort of, you know,
definitely.
almost certain in life. And I think let's talk about it. I think you have good and bad days. I try and have a routine, but it breaks down now and then. But I talk a lot with people and friends.
And that's all amazing, and thank you for sharing that. You're right. It's trying to first remember it's not you, unless you're one of those people listening who genuinely did something stupid last place. Then that's probably what you.
Which would be gross conduct or something criminal.
Those people. Sorry, we can't help at the minute, but we'll tonight.
Exactly.
But for the most part, it does seem at a point in time that has caught a few people out, and for one reason or another. So it's important to remember it's not necessarily.
And I think actually for the more senior people like me, it's as I said, the chairs to sit on are fewer. Yeah. So I think it's also being more open-minded about what you could do.
Have you started looking at chairs in other industries? Have you had any thoughts about, well, maybe I've got such a varied array of talent and leadership skills and managing people skills. Have you started thinking about?
Well, so I've started thinking. Do you know what I've started thinking about more is actually, I do love this industry. I have to say that. I love everything I've done in the career I've had. I love working with clients. I think it's such a diverse and vibrant industry to be in, because you have such an opportunity to touch different stages of clients, businesses and brands, and all of that. So I do love it. What I am sort of engaging in at the moment is making sure that I have more than one income stream. Because I think we've grown up, when you are my age, I've grown up in that you get a job. Yeah, you're in one you do one thing. Whereas looking at, the much younger generations, like different income streams is definite. So I have started to do that. And some of those are pursuing. Obviously I'm not going to key, it's not a broken record, but the things I saw in India and the need there and empowering women and broadening that out was so interesting. So I'm sort of looking at what could I do there? What can we do what can big corporations do, etc., things like that. So for me, it's very much at the moment is about looking at different income streams, so you're not bound to one thing, because I think that's what hit me the most when I was made redundant, was like, oh fuck, not oh fuck, but at least there was just an oh fuck, and I think so that's what I'm looking at the moment, which is it's done two things. It's giving me and a more optimistic view on myself and how my brain can work, because I needed that too. And secondly, I think, it's giving me a bit more passion in terms of how my skills and what I've done over the last 25 years can hopefully, the future will tell, can hopefully be applicable to something that's not going to be my full-time job, but that will be something that is just different and that can add value and complement me, but also the businesses that I touch.
Well, that's amazing, and I'm hearing that from quite a few people now. And next week I'm talking to a very prominent CMO who a lot of people will know, and he's been very vocal about his time in the Badlands on LinkedIn and various platforms that he's on. And my initial conversation with him, the diversifying oneself, I think is vital, and you're essentially adding more strings to your own bow, right? Yeah. You're making yourself more valuable. You're setting yourself up for a little bit more longevity. I don't know I think what this time's done for me is maybe think about the next 30 years more than I'd ever done before, because you were working and you didn't think about you were thinking about next week's deadline or delivering the TVC or the next time presentation. And I think there are one or two little side kind of benefits to this time, which is you start to think slightly differently, and you kind of have clarity around, forced clarity in your day. You used to being busy, and now you've got this quiet time. It does allow you to think, and I think it's good that you're already moving into that.
No, and I think this time to allow to think, I had to get used to that at the beginning. I had to literally get used to it. Then I was like, what should I do? What should I do? But there are techniques, different various kinds of meditation techniques and stuff like that I've actually utilized in terms of allowing myself to the acceptance of time to think, which is then opening up different ways of thinking. And I think we should, so when we are in this position in Badlands, like, I mean, the silver linings is that for some of the days that we're in it, let's give the time that we've invested in so many other people back to ourselves as well, and allow ourselves for time to think rather than just searching for the new job.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I really couldn't. I think with that then, is there it's a strange question, but do you have what would be the perfect thing that you would like to do next? I think you touched on it already, this diversification of yourself, but because what we could maybe manifest is that Greenpeace are listening and they need a new CEO, or the Women's Empowerment Organization.
Exactly.
Is there a perfect? What's the next perfect Rikke role if it was there? Because you never know, right? With the millions of listeners,
you never know. I think the perfect role for me doesn't really matter where it is, or what, if it's an agency, or if it's an agency, that doesn't really matter. That if it's an agency, what matters there is the people.
Yeah.
I think like the people that work there, their sort of values and how they operate. If it's a brand or something, it's definitely around the product or the brand. But I can do so many things. I'd like to put most of them to use, which means that I am very good in any organizations where I can truly add value on solving problems. So my perfect role will be where I feel I am adding a lot of value, where I can see progress, not only from a business and sort of bottom line perspective, but where I can see progress on empowering people. Now, of course, women is, a main thing for me because I've just done that, and that's inspired me a lot. But progress in empowering people and giving people wings to fly in any kind of organization is where I'd be very well at home.
Okay. Well, look, I'm sure people listening can appreciate that, and hopefully organizations, we know that it's a key part.
But you know what? I'll take anything.
No. It goes without saying, right?
Goes without saying.
I know you're joking, because that's not. I know you're joking in that sense, and people need to understand that, because it's. I was talking to a mutual friend of ours, Hassan Kyle, just last week, and he was talking about it's so important to keep your values at the center of your search, and not kind of, if you can, not pivot to, well, I'll go and work there, I hate it. I know it's an awful place, but
because you're not going to last. You do have to like what you do, and you have to have joy in what you do. So adding to my sort of progress in people and empowerment, joy. Yeah, let's make sure we also just have a little bit of joy. That would be lovely.
Well, so the last question I asked my guests, it didn't seem fitting to ask you this, because when I met you and spoken to you, you're so impeccably turned out and stylish and Danish cool that I was like, there's no way this would be applicable. But I will ask: have sweatpants become your day-to-day in your not believe for a second they are, because you're just too cool.
Oh my God, that's very, you know what, that is the best compliment someone's given me the whole week. So thank you very much for that. And to everyone listening out there, it is true. I look amazing as well. So obviously an asset too. It's funny because we were talking about this earlier, and I do, what? My wardrobe has suddenly just become different, and it sort of happened organically. I think it sort of suddenly, you sort of go from, oh, I have so many nice things to wear, I can just put this on. Now it's like, oh, I have 4 things I can wear that looks nice, and the rest is yoga pants. And I will also just add, you've only seen me on screen. You have no idea what I'm wearing, except my top and my and my makeup. But
like a US newsreader underneath, it's Bermuda shorts.
Exactly. Oh, no, it's definitely comfort over style.
But I think it goes to what we were saying earlier around mental health, and keeping yourself healthy and fit and doing whatever exercise looks like for you. I think there's also an importance in just kind of keep turning up as well, because the funny thing is, I went through a period a month ago. I just didn't shave for ages, and my wife turned around and went, "You look awful." And I was like, "Oh, well, because I've been at home for." It didn't really matter, but you still have to show up and look amazing. So,
but I think you have to do it for yourself as well. Like you have to look yourself in the mirror and go, yeah, I scrub up pretty nicely. Maybe I should do that a bit more. Yeah,
for sure. Well, look, I think with that, I think we'll leave it there. I think it's been super useful for everyone listening to hear that someone is,
I hope so,
as senior and as accomplished as you can be in the Badlands. It doesn't matter if you're 1 week, 2 weeks, 10 weeks. It's a hard time and it's a hard market at the moment. So I think there's a lot of things that I want people to take away from this. Start looking at how you can almost diversify yourself, given that you've got such a wide range of skill sets. How do you start applying it slightly differently, making sure you're looking after yourself, be it through your favorite thing of working out or looking into meditation, things like Rick is doing, remembering that it's a lot of it is circumstantial and it's very little to do with the individual and the person. And taking out the silver linings, the time that you can have to think, the time you can think about all the things that you've put off for the last 15, 20 years. You can start to tackle some of those things. So as much as it's not the nicest experience in the Badlands, there are some upsides to it. So, Rikke, I can't thank you enough for coming on. I really appreciate it. And it goes without saying, everyone listening to this, the millions of you, please share this. So, someone like Rikke, who's skilled at managing diverse teams and being a leader of so many amazing organizations, is back in there, because I think the country, society, change is coming, change is needed. And I think if we can apply the talents of like Rikke into that process, I don't think anyone would be worse off for it. So Rikke, I thank you so much for coming on.
That's very, very, no, thank you for giving me the time to talk and for letting me do it. And let me also thank you for doing this. It's, if anything, it's really nice to talk to nice people, and we should keep doing that. And you're doing an amazing thing, talking to a lot of diverse people that can help each other. So thank you. And to the millions of listeners, obviously check me out on LinkedIn, hashtag open to work. And
you see, ladies and gentlemen, it's not her first rodeo. She's done this communications thing for a while now.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rikke. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
You too. Bye.